Hey everyone! Today I just wanted to go through a quick video with you on an option that you can use to make sure that you're getting the best out of your time in the gym. Alright, so here on the whiteboard is an example of how to periodise your training plan. Alright, so before we go through how this is laid out and what it entails, when should you use something like this? Well, if you're an intermediate gym goer or an advanced gym goer, then you should give this method some consideration. If you've been coming to the gym consistently for 12 to 18 months maybe, you've got the best out of those newbie gains, so to speak. So that's sort of first 12 months in the gym when the progress comes really easy. You've exhausted that avenue. You're starting to see your progress in the gym stall a little bit. This type of training lends itself well to those who are coming into the gym pretty consistently. They're quite committed to the weekly sessions in the gym. They've got a good handle on technique in the gym. The nutrition's pretty good. They're aware of their body and the limitations of their body. And they're just generally getting on well with their time in the gym. If that sounds like you, then give this method of structuring your training some consideration. So if we start at the top of the whiteboard, we have a block of training that's allocated to 18 weeks. Normally you would sit down with your personal trainer, with your fitness professional, and you would talk about a goal that you're looking to achieve across that 18 weeks. So once you've established that goal, your 18 weeks is now divided into 3 6-week mesocycles. All right, so we've got mesocycle 1, 2 and 3 to form your 18-week block. Okay. Inside those mesocycles of 6 weeks, you have smaller microcycles, normally lasting a week. All right, so microcycle 1 is week 1. So in your first mesocycle, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. After the last week is deload, we'll talk about that in just a second. Second mesocycle, again 6 weeks, with the final week being a deload. And the final 6 week of your 18-week block over here, again, the same thing is repeated, 6 weeks with a final week of deload. All right, so structuring your training this way ultimately allows you to structure how hard you are working, the intensity that you are working, so it's done in a progressive manner. All right, so we need to make sure that you have progressive overloads, you have progressive intensities, you are building on your intensity levels over your sort of mesocycles, if you like. So if you check out the graphs at the bottom, so mesocycle 1, microcycle 1, week 1. So your intensity here, you've got your intensity on the left-hand side of the graph, and along the bottom of the graph, we've got your weeks. All right, so week 1 starts at quite a low intensity, enough intensity to stimulate you to progress, but reasonably low intensity compared to your sort of maximum recoverable volume, I suppose. The hardest work that you can do and recover from is quite high. All right, so lower intensity on week 1, then we build the intensity a little higher week 2, a little higher again week 3, a little higher again week 4, a little higher again week 5. Okay, so your hardest work, I guess, in mesocycle 1 comes in week 5, and you build to that level. Along with all that stimulus that working hard brings, you accumulate some fatigue, okay? So week 6 is what we call a deload week, okay? So week 6, every week 6 on these mesocycles is your deload. The deload clears the fatigue, allows all those little aches and pains and niggles that you've picked up to sort of heal up. It reignites that sort of motivation for you to come back into the gym and start your next mesocycle, the next 6-week block, with renewed vigour, I suppose. All right, so it's really important that you take the deload and we start that process again. But if you look at mesocycle 2, if you check out the graph, the starting point of week 1 is slightly higher than the starting point of the previous week 1. Okay, so you run the whole process again. Week 1, low intensity, but higher than previous week 1's intensity. Week 2, a little harder. Week 3, a little harder. Week 4, a little harder. Week 5 is your peak week, as we call it. Very stimulative, but very fatiguing, okay? So week 6 of mesocycle 2 is your deload. Clear the fatigue, clear the injuries, re-motivate yourself to attack your final mesocycle, which is week 3. Rinse and repeat, the whole thing starts again, but the bit to notice here is your starting intensity. So your starting intensity for your 3rd mesocycle, week 1 of your 3rd mesocycle, is higher than the starting point for the 2nd mesocycle. And it is markedly higher than the starting point of week 1 on mesocycle 1, all right? So the intensity builds, all right? So starting at a high point, harder again week 2, harder again week 3, harder again week 4, peak week 5, very fatiguing, okay? Very cumulative of fatigue. That fatigue needs to clear. We take the deload week 6, maybe take a couple of weeks at this point because you're at the end of your 18-week block. Hopefully you've achieved in this 18 weeks what you set out to achieve by structuring it in this way. You can then sit down with your personal trainer again and figure out what your next 18-week block is going to look like and what goals you might be looking to achieve there. All right, so looks a little bit complicated, but when you stop and look at it, it's not that difficult. If you're an intermediate or an advanced gym goer and the gains have stopped, the progress in the gym has stopped, the strength progression has stopped, and you think that this may benefit you, then speak to myself or speak to another member of the team. We have a new piece of software that can help us structure this nice and easily for you. All right, so yeah, how to periodise your training? Well worth a look. Thanks, guys.